The red swimsuits of Baywatch once represented beauty, courage, and the dream of a perfect California life. Reality behind the cameras, however, looked very different. The series was canceled after just one season. One star disappeared from Hollywood after addiction and an arrest, while others saw their lives fall apart because of their marriages or even their own children. Let's uncover the unbelievable truth behind the beautiful faces that captivated millions of viewers. Jeremy Jackson. Jeremy Jackson beat out hundreds of young hopefuls to win the role of Hobie Buchanan, Mitch Buchanan's spirited and lovable son, when he was just 11 years old. His natural charm and mischievous personality quickly made Hobie one of the most popular child characters on television. But achieving fame at such a young age also exposed him to the darker side of Hollywood far too soon. The years that followed were marked by one setback after another. At 19 years old, Jackson was arrested for operating a methamphetamine lab, served 90 days in jail, and eventually went through 5 separate stints in rehabilitation. In 2015, he was removed from Celebrity Big Brother UK after inappropriate behavior toward a female contestant. Later that same year, he was arrested twice, including in connection with a stabbing incident, ultimately receiving a 270-day jail sentence and 5 years of probation in the most serious case. His personal life brought even more heartbreak. Jackson's marriage to fitness model Lonnie Willison lasted from 2012 until their divorce in 2014 after a violent domestic altercation. In the years that followed, Willison experienced severe mental health struggles and substance addiction, eventually becoming homeless on the streets of Los Angeles. Jackson has publicly acknowledged that her tragic decline remains one of the greatest sources of guilt and sorrow in his life. By 2026, at 45 years old, Jeremy Jackson has left Hollywood behind. He now works as a personal fitness coach and frequently shares his recovery journey, hoping to inspire others by showing that even after years of addiction, legal troubles, and personal tragedy, rebuilding a life is still possible. Michael Newman. Michael Newman was originally hired as Baywatch's technical advisor and real-life lifeguard consultant, having served as a professional Los Angeles County lifeguard since he was just 10 years old. His genuine expertise and natural screen presence impressed the producers so much that they promoted him to a regular cast member, casting him as Michael "Noomy" Newman, a dedicated, dependable lifeguard who was essentially a fictional version of himself when he was 33 years old. Even after becoming a television star, Newman refused to give up the career he loved. Throughout his years on Baywatch, he continued working as a firefighter and lifeguard, balancing both professions until retiring after 25 years of public service. But in 2006, at 50, his life changed forever when he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. For the next 18 years, Newman faced the progressive neurological disorder with remarkable courage. He became an active fundraiser for the Michael J. Fox Foundation, hoping to help advance research toward a cure while continuing to speak openly about his own experience. On October 20th, 2024, he passed away at UCLA Medical Center at the age of 68 due to heart complications. Before his death, Newman reflected that Parkinson's had given him a lot of time to reflect and had brought him a kind of wisdom he never wished to gain in that way. Beyond television, Newman was equally proud of the life he built with his family. He shared a happy 37-year marriage with his wife, Sarah, and was surrounded by his children and grandchildren until the very end. With more than 150 Baywatch episodes to his name, second only to David Hasselhoff, he left behind a legacy defined not just by the number of lives he saved on screen, but by the integrity, courage, and quiet heroism he lived every day. David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff landed the role of Mitch Buchanan with little need for a lengthy audition process. At 37 years old, He became the fearless leader of the Baywatch lifeguards and the devoted single father whose courage, integrity, and compassion made Mitch the heart of the series throughout its 11-season run. Behind the image of television's ultimate beach hero, however, Hasselhoff was fighting a long and painful battle with alcoholism. In 2007, a deeply personal video showing him intoxicated and struggling to eat a hamburger from the floor went viral after it was filmed by one of his daughters in an effort to persuade him to seek treatment. His 17-year marriage to actress Pamela Bach had already ended in a bitter divorce the previous year, and the family endured another devastating tragedy on March 5, 2025, when Pamela died by suicide at 62. At the beginning of 2026, Hasselhoff once again became the subject of public concern after he was photographed using a walker and a wheelchair in public. His representative later explained that he had recently undergone knee and hip replacement surgeries and was actively participating in physical therapy. Despite the difficult recovery, he has remained determined to regain his strength, continuing to hike and work out whenever his rehabilitation allows. By 2026, at 74 years old, David Hasselhoff has found steady support in his third wife, model Haley Roberts, whom he married in 2018. As he continues his recovery, the man who once inspired millions as Mitch Buchanan now faces perhaps his greatest challenge with the same resilience that made his most famous character unforgettable. Pamela Anderson. After appearing on the cover of Playboy, Pamela Anderson caught the attention of the Baywatch producers and played C.J. Parker in 1992 at just 25 years old. Playing the confident, compassionate lifeguard whose signature red swimsuit became an international icon, she quickly rose to global superstardom. As Baywatch grew into the most-watched television series in the world, Anderson became one of the most recognizable faces of the 1990s. That extraordinary fame, however, came at a devastating personal cost. In 1995, the private sex tape she made with her husband, drummer Tommy Lee, was stolen from their home and illegally distributed across the early internet, becoming one of Hollywood's most infamous invasions of privacy. The scandal left lasting emotional scars, while her personal life remained turbulent for years. She ultimately experienced 5 failed marriages, including those to Tommy Lee, Kid Rock, 2 marriages to Rick Salomon, and Dan Hayhurst. Decades later, Anderson chose to reclaim her own story. She surprised the world by giving up makeup entirely and embracing a natural appearance, challenging the beauty standards that had defined much of her career. She also produced the Netflix documentary Pamela, a love story, telling her life from her own perspective rather than allowing tabloids and public speculation to shape her legacy. By 2026, at 59 years old, Pamela Anderson has found a quieter and more peaceful life back in her native Canada. Now single, she dedicates much of her time to animal welfare advocacy, continuing her long-time partnership with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, while proving that her greatest reinvention came long after she left the beach in Baywatch's famous red swimsuit. Gregory Allen Williams. Gregory Allen Williams's commanding presence and deep authoritative voice made him a natural choice for the role of Sergeant Garner Ellerby when he joined Baywatch in 1989 at 32. As the level-headed beach police officer who frequently worked alongside the lifeguards, Ellerby brought calm authority and quiet integrity to the series. The role also made Williams one of the longest-serving black actors in Baywatch's history. His greatest act of courage, however, happened far away from a television set. On April 29, 1992, as the Los Angeles riots erupted, Williams was at a gym when he heard what was happening and decided to drive to the infamous intersection of Florence and Normandy in hopes of being, as he later described it, a voice of reason. There, he witnessed Japanese-American truck driver Takao Hirata being pulled from his vehicle and brutally beaten by a mob. Without hesitation, Williams rushed into the chaos, helped Hirata back into his truck, and drove him to safety at a nearby hospital. He later recounted the extraordinary experience in his memoir, A Gathering of Heroes. Away from Baywatch, Williams built an impressive career spanning decades, appearing in acclaimed productions including Remember the Titans, 2000, The West Wing, The Sopranos, Greenleaf, and The Righteous Gemstones. His steady presence and versatility earned him lasting respect across both television and film. By 2026, at 69 years old, Gregory Allen Williams continues to enjoy a happy family life while remaining active as the author of 4 books and a passionate advocate for racial equality in Hollywood. His legacy is defined not only by the characters he portrayed, but also by the real-life courage and compassion he demonstrated when it mattered most. Alexandra Paul. Alexandra Paul played Stephanie Holden at 29 years old, thanks to her intelligence, quiet confidence, and the athletic presence that made her instantly believable as a professional lifeguard. Playing one of Baywatch's strongest and most capable female rescuers, Stephanie was written as Mitch Buchanan's equal, a fearless leader whose shocking on-screen death in 1997 remains one of the series' most emotional moments. Away from the cameras, Paul chose a path far removed from Hollywood glamour. Rather than chasing celebrity, she devoted herself to activism, becoming one of the entertainment industry's most outspoken advocates for environmental protection, animal rights, and peace. Since the 1980s, she has maintained a strict vegan lifestyle and has been arrested more than 20 times while participating in nonviolent civil disobedience protests supporting the causes she believes in. Her personal life has been a striking contrast to the turbulence often associated with Hollywood. In 2000, she married triathlete Ian Murray, and more than 25 years later, their marriage remains one of the industry's rare, long-lasting success stories. Together, they have built a life centered on shared values rather than celebrity. By 2026, at 62 years old, Alexandra Paul works primarily as a professional health coach while occasionally accepting small acting roles simply for the joy of performing. Even so, she continues to devote most of her time and energy to environmental activism and humanitarian causes, proving that her greatest mission has always existed beyond the television screen. Michael Bergen. Before joining Baywatch, Michael Bergen had already become one of the defining male models of the 1990s, best known for his Calvin Klein underwear campaigns alongside Kate Moss. His sculpted physique and camera-ready presence made him an obvious fit for the series, and in 1997, at the age of 28, he arrived as J.D. Darius. The handsome and dependable lifeguard soon became one of the leading men carrying Baywatch through its final seasons. But Bergen's most controversial story began before he ever set foot on the beach. While working at Calvin Klein, he became romantically involved with Carolyn Bessette, who later married John F. Kennedy, Jr., the son of the late American president, in 1996. In 2004, around the 5th anniversary of the plane crash that killed Carolyn, her husband, and her sister Lauren, Bergen published The Other Man. In the memoir, he claimed that his relationship with Carolyn continued even after her marriage, a revelation that triggered intense backlash, while several people close to her publicly disputed his account. Away from the controversy, Bergen built a far more stable private life. He married former makeup artist Joy Tilk in 2004, and the couple went on to have 2 children, Jesse and Alana. Together, they later moved into real estate and now operate their own business, the Bergen Group. By 2026, at 57 years old, Michael Bergen keeps a relatively low profile in Los Angeles and focuses mainly on his real estate career. Even so, the disputed love story that once overshadowed his acting work has returned to public attention through the recent FX series, Love Story, ensuring that one of the most controversial chapters of his life is still being debated decades later. Yasmin Bleeth. Yasmin Bleeth was originally hired for just a single episode as Caroline Holden, Stephanie Holden's younger sister. But audiences responded so enthusiastically to her beauty and on-screen charisma that producers quickly expanded her role into a long-term contract, keeping her on Baywatch for 4 seasons. At just 25 years old, Bleeth became one of the show's biggest breakout stars and one of the defining faces of its golden era. Behind the glamorous image, however, she was fighting a battle few viewers knew about. Bleeth later revealed that she began using cocaine socially in 1998, before the habit rapidly spiraled into a full-blown addiction. She suffered frequent nosebleeds and even collapsed backstage on occasion as her health deteriorated. Her struggles eventually took a devastating toll on her career. In September 2001, she crashed her car into a highway median near Detroit while under the influence of drugs. Police discovered syringes containing liquid cocaine in her purse, and a subsequent search of her hotel room uncovered additional cocaine and drug paraphernalia, leading to her arrest and becoming one of Hollywood's most publicized celebrity drug cases. Her recovery ultimately changed the course of her life. While undergoing treatment at the Promises Rehabilitation Center in Malibu, she met fellow patient Paul Carrito. After dating for nearly 2 years, they married at the Bacara Resort in Santa Barbara in August 2002. Bleeth has since said that her 2001 car crash may have saved their relationship because it forced her to realize she could no longer choose both love and addiction. That decision laid the foundation for a marriage that has endured for more than 2 decades. By 2026, at 58 years old, Yasmin Bleeth lives a quiet life with her husband and rarely gives interviews or makes public appearances. Although she surprised fans by returning to the screen in the 2021 independent comedy Whack the Don after nearly 20 years away from acting, she has largely chosen a peaceful life far from the spotlight that once made her one of television's biggest stars. David Chokachi. David Chokachi joined Baywatch in 1995 at 27, stepping into the role of Cody Madison after David Charvet's departure left the series searching for its next heartthrob. Although he held a degree in political science, it was his successful modeling career, classic all-American looks, and sun-kissed blonde hair that convinced producers he was the perfect fit. As the charming and fearless young lifeguard, Cody quickly became one of the show's most recognizable faces during its later seasons. Leaving Baywatch, however, proved far more difficult than joining it. Like many former teen idols, Chokachi struggled to escape the image that had made him famous and found himself repeatedly typecast. In 2009, he appeared on the reality series Confessions of a Teen Idol, where he spoke candidly about the emotional toll of fading fame and the sense of loss he experienced after the spotlight that had defined his youth suddenly disappeared. Away from Hollywood, Chokachi built a far more stable personal life. He has been married to Susan Brubaker since 2004, and together they have raised their daughter while keeping their family life largely out of the public eye. Unlike many of his Baywatch co-stars, his personal life has remained remarkably free of major scandals. By 2026, at 58 years old, David Chokachi is still in exceptional physical shape, working as a fitness trainer while continuing to act in lower-budget television movies, including projects for Hallmark and other cable networks. Although he never recaptured the worldwide fame of his Baywatch years, he has quietly built a lasting career by continuing to do what he loves. David Charvet. Born in Lyon, France, David Charvet brought a distinctly European charm to Baywatch when he joined the series as Matt Brody at just 20 years old. Handsome, adventurous, and effortlessly charismatic, Matt quickly became one of the show's most popular young lifeguards. His on-screen romance with C.J. Parker made him a teenage heartthrob throughout the 1990s and helped cement his place as one of Baywatch's breakout stars. Rather than spending decades chasing acting roles, Charvet made a surprising career change. In 1999, he stepped away from Hollywood to pursue music, signing a 5-album deal with Universal Music France. His debut single, Should I Leave, climbed to number 3 on the French charts, and over the course of his recording career, he sold more than 2.5 million albums. It was an unexpected second act that set him apart from many of his former Baywatch co-stars, whose careers remained closely tied to television. His personal life also attracted considerable public attention. Charvet began dating model and television host Brooke Burke in 2006, and together they welcomed 2 children, Heaven Rain and Shia Braven, before marrying in St. Bart's in 2011. Their marriage ended when Burke filed for divorce in April 2018, with the split becoming final in 2020. As part of the settlement, the couple divided their assets, while Charvet retained ownership of Malibu Stone and Building Materials, the construction company he had helped build. By 2026, at 54 years old, David Charvet has established himself as a successful real estate developer, specializing in luxury custom homes in the Los Angeles area. Far removed from the paparazzi and the fame of his Baywatch years, he says he prefers the quieter life he has built, spending much of his time raising his children and focusing on his business ventures. Gina Lee Nolan. Before Baywatch, Gina Lee Nolan first gained national attention as one of the models on The Price is Right. That exposure helped open the door to the role of Neely Capshaw, which she landed at just 24 years old. As the manipulative, self-centered troublemaker who constantly stirred up conflict among the lifeguards, Neely became one of the series' most memorable villains, appearing in 65 episodes between 1995 and 1998. Behind the scenes, however, Nolan was facing a medical mystery that would change her life. After the birth of her first son, she developed a series of alarming symptoms. Her signature blonde hair became brittle and began falling out. Her weight fluctuated dramatically despite maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and she battled severe depression, overwhelming fatigue, and even vomiting between scenes. For years, doctors mistakenly blamed postpartum depression and other conditions before she finally received the correct diagnosis in 2009. Hashimoto's disease, an autoimmune disorder in which the immune system attacks the thyroid gland. The diagnosis forced Nolan to step away from acting and focus on rebuilding her health. Determined to help others avoid the same years of confusion, she published Beautiful Inside and Out in 2013. Sharing her journey with Hashimoto's disease. The book quickly reached Amazon's top 5 health bestsellers, and she later founded the online community Thyroid Sexy to raise awareness of thyroid disorders affecting millions of Americans who often go undiagnosed for years. By 2026, at 54 years old, Gina Lee Nolan enjoys a happy family life in Scottsdale, Arizona, with her husband, former NHL player Cale Hulse, whom she married in 2004. While she has largely left Hollywood behind, she continues to focus on her health, her family, and educating others about living with chronic thyroid disease. Jason Simmons. Australian actor. Jason Simmons brought an international flair to Baywatch when he joined the series as Logan Fowler in 1994 at the age of 24. With his rugged good looks and signature long hair, he quickly became a fan favorite as the adventurous Australian lifeguard. At a time when Baywatch was being broadcast in 142 countries, Simmons found himself recognized by audiences around the world. Throughout his years on the show, Simmons kept his sexuality private, although his fellow cast members were aware and fully supportive. In 2008, he publicly came out as gay in an interview with Australia's New Idea magazine. At the same time, he announced plans to marry his Irish partner, actor John O'Callaghan, and introduced the Ugandan son they had adopted together. Simmons explained that he wanted to use his story to encourage adoption and help challenge long-standing stereotypes surrounding same-sex families. After Baywatch, Simmons continued pursuing his passion for acting on the London stage while also appearing in independent films, including Nowhere, before later joining the cast of Sharknado in 2013. In recent years, he has devoted much of his energy to supporting animal welfare causes, reflecting his long-standing commitment to advocacy beyond the entertainment industry. By 2026, at 56 years old, Jason Simmons continues to balance his artistic career with social activism while keeping his personal life largely out of the spotlight. Although his relationship with John O'Callaghan ultimately did not lead to marriage as originally planned, Simmons has remained focused on his work and the causes that matter most to him. Kelly Packard. Kelly Packard first appeared in Baywatch in a series of small roles beginning in 1991, when she was just 16 years old, before earning a regular spot as April Gaminsky in the show's later seasons. She went on to play the character in 50 episodes while simultaneously becoming a familiar face to young audiences through the hit teen series California Dreams. Cheerful, energetic, and compassionate, April brought a youthful spirit to the lifeguard team during Baywatch's later years. Unlike many young stars of the era, Packard largely avoided the scandals that often surrounded Hollywood in the 1990s. She has credited her strong Christian faith and the values instilled by her family with helping her stay grounded throughout her career. While several of her Baywatch co-stars struggled with addiction or highly publicized personal crises, Packard quietly built a reputation for living a remarkably stable and drama-free life. In 1998, she married Darren Privet, and together they raised 4 children. Although their marriage ended in divorce in 2021 after 23 years, the separation remained notably amicable. The former couple has continued to maintain a close friendship and work together as co-parents, putting their children ahead of any personal differences. By 2026, at 51 years old, Kelly Packard continues to embrace a healthy lifestyle while regularly appearing as a lifestyle television host on family-oriented networks. She has also become an outspoken advocate against unrealistic beauty standards and the pressure to undergo cosmetic surgery in Hollywood, encouraging women to age with confidence rather than chasing impossible ideals. So that's the Baywatch 1989 cast in 2026. Time has changed these lifeguards in ways few fans ever expected. Which cast member surprised you the most, and who was your favorite on the beach? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more Then and Now videos.